Next, we've got Ed Lewis from ICANN talking about domain name collisions. Controlled interruption of name collisions.
Yeah, I'm Ed Lewis from ICANN. I'm here to talk about controlled interruptions. It's something that's going on in the community there to handle name collisions or address name collisions. So I'm going to start my talk out. This is a pretty brief talk. Talk about what is a name collision, what we're trying to address for those who haven't been familiar with that. And then I'll talk about controlled interruptions, give you a definition of what it is, what we're trying to do with it, and then what it means basically to the operator community, what you might see of it and what you might want to do about it. So what happens is there's a lot of queries going out to the public DNS for top-level domains that don't exist. It's been going on forever, like .example. And these queries go out there, there's no answer, they get back at, there's no such name out there, and then the sender deals with that. They fall back to something else, and they finally get to where they're going. And a lot of times people don't even notice this is happening. It just takes a little bit of time, they don't notice that either. There's sometimes evidence that people who will go off of the reservation, go to free Wi-Fi, don't turn on VPN, and they will leak the same kind of queries out there. So we see names appearing in the DNS that shouldn't be out there. Now, why does this happen? There are two basic reasons for this that we come across. One is people just adopting names. Sometimes it's from installing new software. There's an example set up, you just copy that because you figure it's all local to you. I don't care about the public DNS, so I'll just keep it local, and that's where some of the names are coming from. Another root cause for this is the use of search lists. Search lists are something where they've been around for a long time, they're inconsistent. You put in a partial name, the rest of the name gets filled in automatically, and you ask for that name out there. These two cause names to go out to the DNS sometimes that you don't really want to be out there, and we have these potential for collisions. Now, all of that is happening, and if it goes along without anything really getting noticed, it's fine. But someday, the TLD that you're trying to get to may actually appear in the public DNS. It's now defined. This here, the .example suddenly is put there. Those two users out there that were getting no answer for this and going back to somewhere else are now getting an answer. And they may be going to the wrong place. They may be getting different answers. And this is going to be an interruption to operations. It's going to cause things not to work the way they're expected to work today. At best, you're going to have to fix this to get going back to where you want to be. At worst, it could actually result in data flowing out of the network into somebody else who's reserved that name. Now, to avoid this, how do you have this, prevent this from happening to yourself? First thing, a couple of principles out there. Use fully qualified domain names. Spell the name all the way out there. Use names that are recognized globally, that are unique, that they're registered with somebody. And try to limit the use of search lists. Don't fall back to them if you can avoid that. Only because search lists are so inconsistent, not that they're evil, but they're inconsistently applied. You want to have a very deterministic network. You want to know where people are going. But this may not solve all of your problems if you haven't caught everything. So in the ICANN community, the response to this is how can we deal with this change in the root zone, adding more TLDs, and having these queries come out there? What do you do? It's going to be interruption. We'll control the interruption. We're going to try to create breakage in a way that's manageable. There's the designs for this. Basically, it's going to be it's a nuisance. It's going to make you have things go wrong right away. You're going to go nowhere. But also, it's designed so that there's no collateral damage from doing this. We don't want data to go to other places. You're going to know what's going to go on. We're also, because we don't have the internet doesn't really have an explicit error feedback loop, we're giving you responses that are meant to be breadcrumbs, and you're going to find them in logs of systems that are not working, or intrusion detection system will pick up weird connection attempts, and we're going to try to use some numbers and names that are kind of suspicious. In particularly, IPv4 address 127.0.53.53. That's one of the loopback addresses. It's not really defined to be anything, but if you see that, it's because we're telling you you got something wrong. You're trying to go somewhere, and obviously this query has leaked out, and we're going to tell you you really want to take a look at this. The other records we have out there for mail exchanger records will come back with your DNS needs immediate attention, whatever name you're looking up. Also for the SRV record, the same thing. Those are both host name responses in there. And finally, if you look for the text record, because that might be what's used for mail protection, you get your DNS configuration needs immediate attention. Now, you might want to look for these things exactly, or make sure somebody didn't make a spelling mistake, because we've seen that. But these are going to be indications that you have queries going out of your network that you really don't intend to have go out there, because at some point it's going to cause you a bigger problem. So what to do? My first bullet here is a little bit misleading. I have belief of demonstrable severe harm. Actually, we're looking for any reports that you experience a problem with this. If you see these queries come back to you and you feel like it, you can tell us about it. Right now, we only have about a dozen or so reports out there. Statistically, it doesn't say much. I mean, I'm sure there's more of this being seen out there, but we don't know what. We can't say much with the 12 reports we have now. This will help us refine the process. If you do see this, just let us know. And the URL for reporting that is up there. Now, for further information about this, we have much more written about this topic. A lot of it's geared towards the registries and registrar community that ICANN serves. There's the next file there is more comprehensive in describing this problem and what you can do to get around it. And finally, in the last bullet on this page, we have a website which is more general, describes the problem from different perspectives, with some frequently asked question pages out there. You can go there, look up what you have questions about, look for different instructions out there, and some of these other resources. So I've actually gone really fast. I'm on my Q&A slide, so if you have questions, you can start running up now. I'm going to repeat the URL for that mitigation paper, the paper that says how to get around this, and what you want to do with it. Now, there is one question I've seen on the NANOG list, and I put that up here first. Some people say, how would I let my NOC know a new TLD is coming, so that when I get these reports and I see reports for this TLD coming back to me, I want to make everyone know what's going on. We have yet another URL there. It's a comma separated value file which has a list of all the new TLDs, referring to from 2012 onward that we've approved. The dates at which the contract was signed, which means that it's not operational yet, but it's going to come. There's agreements in place for it. And also, if it's delegated, we have the date of its delegation in the root zone. So you can go back and say, when did this problem start? You can see it started with this TLD coming online. And with that, I'll go with questions.
Scott Librand, Twitter. So my main question is, what host names, what domain requests are you going to be doing this on? I heard a generic answer, but not specific. Is this going to relate to things that people commonly type into search engines that then get looked up because they're not sure if that's a host name or a search term? Is it going to be www.random top-level domain? I mean, what are you doing this on? Okay, so let's say if you go to a web browser and you type in
www.company.example, let's say example is one of the ones out there. The web browser is going to come back trying to make an attempt to 127.0.53.53. That's going to be the address record, the v4 address record.
Why is www.company.example resolving to 53.53? That's the part I don't get.
Oh, because you asked for it.
No, why did you decide as the DNS operators that that particular host name deserves to be sent to this address as opposed to something run by the TLD operator?
So let's take from .examples, the .example operator. They set up operations right away. They put the first zone file out there. They're going to have a wildcard. Right? So everything that comes, since .example was not running previously.
So this is a wildcard. Everything that's not actually registered is supposed to go here.
Right. The caveat here is for anything that's not running today, we'll have the wildcard option. This is a detail that's really not that important to the operator community, but I'll let you know. Anything that hasn't started operating today, wildcard goes out. Everything will come back. If it's been running for a few months and it has certain names that we're concerned about, those names specifically are going to respond this way. But that's going to, over time, that's going to go away. That's kind of just to handle the older TLDs that are already running and have possibilities of positive responses coming out.
Hey, Eric Ostwell, Verisign Labs. I just had a quick question. Have you guys started to think about maybe proactively reaching out to queryers that you see that maybe aren't like watching their logs carefully enough to find, 127.0.50.53, and maybe just let them know, hey, we saw you asking for stuff and we think you ought to be worried or anything like that? Is there any plans or thinking around that?
The difficulty is, I believe the difficulty is that where these queries are going to is not one central place. It's to the TLDs out there. They would be able to do it. ICANN, we don't have the access to that data. I don't think I have access to that data right away. That's a good suggestion. I'll see if there is any provision for having the TLDs try to reach out to people. In that case, I really don't know the answer to that, but I'll look into it. Jeff?
Jeff Houston, APNIC. I spent some time looking at this a few months ago, and I must admit, a lot of the issues that you see are folk who take a system that's got a search list and so on configured within a domain and walk out of the building. It's not the resolver's fault of the resolver when they walked out of the building that has a problem. So it's not actually the DNS resolver operator that's actually the cause of these silly queries at the root. It's actually the end machines which are walking into particularly public domains from private domains. And that makes them really, really hard to catch because in essence, in the public domain, they're anonymous. They've been given an address du jour, they're wandering around a Wi-Fi hotspot, who cares? You can't track this down. So in some ways, you're spending a lot of effort if you go down the resolver path and you're not going to find anything because there's nothing there that's kind of a permanent signal of a malconfiguration of the DNS. This is really taking a mobile device and walking out the front door.
Right, this is a problem because the DNS is so resilient. It doesn't care. You can ask for anything, and it'll fall back. And that's actually what's happening in cases of the search list. You're falling back to other places. So what this is doing is trying to put breadcrumbs in all the other systems that are making these errant queries. That's the hope. Yeah, do you see TCP connections to 127.0.53.3? You got a problem.
You know, I'm old enough to remember the furore that was created when someone decided to put a wildcard in the .com zone, and everyone decided that this was the ultimate heresy, and how dare they do that, SiteFinder or something. And yet these days ICANN is actively advocating this. Cool.
I will say there is a waiver for that in place for this. Yes, yeah. See, any other questions?
Okay, one more
Run quick,
making
you've
the
got
way
3
to the
minutes
mic.
and 12 seconds. 3 minutes and 11 seconds. 10 seconds.
The big question, I guess, is why does ICANN feel that it's ICANN's problem?
Because generally in the ICANN community sense, we want to make sure that this program is going to go successful. We want to make sure that new tea leaves come in with minimum harm to those that are existing today. You know, we don't want to create a system where you have let's say you have a system which is trying to connect out the door, and someone comes and say, hey, if I register this name, this new TLD, I can start pulling off your traffic. We kind of want to give everyone the chance to say, let's fix this up. Let's do basically let's fix the network, make sure it's doing the right thing, and letting you know about this so that we don't start sending sensitive data out in the wrong place.
Okay, so no more questions? Send your questions to 127.0.53.
Yeah. Or dev null. By the way, I'll close with one thing. We don't have a v6 address. You know, I mean, I've said v4 a couple times here. No one asked me about that. I was kind of surprised. v6 doesn't have a loopback address we can borrow like this. v6 has one loopback address, which is smart. v4 had a /8 for this. So suggestions for a v6 loopback address would be appreciated. So.
Well, you know, you run the root of the namespace, right? I mean, the number space. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Ed.
Hey, thanks.
I'll take you off the hook for that.